Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Nurfatini Binti Kassim and my matric number 1181618. Today, our group would like to present in the subject of Information Service and Facilities, and the title is The Issue of Long-Term Effect of Covid-19 in Malaysia. And our respect to Dr. Fauziah Binti Abdul Wahid as our lecturer. Before I proceed, this is our group member and they will introduce themselves later. Next is the table of contents. The first is introductions. Second, the type of long-term effect of COVID. There are 4 types. The first is mental health. Second, physical. Third, multi-organ. Fourth, antibody. And the lastly is conclusions. Next, the introduction of the issue of long-term effect of COVID-19 in Malaysia. Coronavirus COVID-19 can leave some people with symptoms that continue for weeks or months after the infection has passed. These are also known as extended COVID or post-COVID-19 symptoms. COVID-19, whether mild or moderate, lasts roughly 2 weeks for most persons. On the other hand, have health concerns that persist even after they have recovered from the acute phase of the illness. There is no longer any live coronavirus in the body of patients. Even after the person does a coronavirus test and found out that the test is negative, they could still be seriously disabled. The first type of long-term effect of COVID-19 is mental health. There are a few mental health issues to consider, include depression, paranoia, anxiety, and others. These topics include meaning for the terms of mental health from printed materials and also online materials. This is the overview or called directory for materials that are searched about mental health. For the printed materials, the first one is dictionary. There are 3 web pages and those state that mental illness or mental health is the condition of being sound mentally and emotionally that is characterized by the absence of mental illness and by adequate adjustment. Second, books. There are 2 books that are found and mention that mental health is a state of well-being in which the individual realizes his or her abilities, can cope with the normal stars of life, can work productively, and can make a contribution to his or her community. Third, the newspaper. The only one I choose is the title Mental Health Matter from the Star newspaper, and state that students are also burdened with stress in the pandemic of COVID-19. Fourth, from the Encyclopedia. I found the definition of mental illness during the Middle Age from the encyclopedia.com. For the online materials, which is websites and journal article, the website is from the Al Jazeera website. This website states several points about how the COVID-19 pandemic is affecting mental health. Lastly, those 2 journals are from the International Journal of Mental Planning and Management and state that quarantine and self-isolation can most likely cause a negative impact on one's mental health. Next, I will pass to Raihanah.
Thanks to Nurfatini, I will proceed with the issue of long-term effects of COVID-19 in terms of physical from various sources. Firstly, from Cambridge and Collins Dictionary provides a simple definitions of physical terms, which means related to the body, such as physical exercise, fitness, strength, or disabilities. Next, Bishavit Rain stated in her book titled COVID and Post-COVID Recovery, Doctors face 6 points plan that she has seen a good number of people who have been infected with COVID-19 but can manage to get rid of the virus effects. They still experience symptoms such as chronic cough, brain fog, headache, and others. She also said that one of her patients also developed a terrible shortness of breath even after testing negative for COVID-19. Besides that, these 3 newspapers explain that a COVID survivor, even though they have recovered, their physical condition is still not completely healthy because sometimes they have a shortness of breath, anxiety, who need them to undergo follow-up treatment for a physical examination. Source from website also stated that former COVID-19 patients still have prolonged symptoms due to COVID-19 infection are more likely to remain having some symptoms for 12 weeks or more, like experience prolonged symptoms such as body ache and lethargy. In fact, there are also patients who feel poor memory and lacks of concentration. Lastly, this journal also mentioned that 217 COVID-19 survivors found that half of those who experienced symptoms like fatigue, respiratory or neurological complaints 10 until 14 weeks after disease onset had a post-COVID-19 syndrome. Next, I will pass to Nur Hazirah.
Thanks to Raihanah, allow me to conclude explanation from printed materials and online materials as in this slide. In the dictionary, multi-organ is involving or affecting more than one organ. Multiple organ dysfunction syndrome, also called as multiple organ failure. This has been supported by books. I found stating multi-organ dysfunction was caused by COVID-19 was resulting in a poor outcome. Early identification of organ failure and provision of adequate organ support may enhance survival chance. Next, there are two newspapers that writing about multi-organ inflammatory syndrome. This become an evidence for the problem of long-term COVID-19 in definition of this subtopic. First, news was happened in children at India. 100 cases of multi-organ inflammatory syndrome in children have been documented in northern India. It was proved to be deadly if not taken care of because any disease that affect the hearts, lungs and brains can be dead. Second news also stated that almost people discharged from hospital after COVID-19 had a higher rate of organ damage such as multi-organ dysfunction. For three websites, first website said that multi-organ dysfunction syndrome is a continuum with incremental degrees of psychological derangement in individuals' organs, which it is a process rather than a single event. Two more websites are about studies that have been conducted by scientists on this multi-organ failure. The result of both studies showed that some alteration in humans with COVID-19 were long-lasting across all organs. Lastly, two journals are also related to the definition of this subtopic, which COVID-19 is associated with multi-organ failure. Both of the journal writing that multi-organ dysfunction manifests itself in a variety of ways, including lung failure, liver failure, kidney damage, cardiovascular disease, a variety of hematological abnormalities, and so many. I handed the next to Izzah.
Thank you to the Hazirah. My name is Nurul Binti Jusoh. My matric number is 1181620. So the subtopic that I have to talk about is antibody. Today, certain society may still be confused regarding the meaning of antibody. As a result, I will explain the definition of antibody from various directory sources such as dictionary, newspaper, encyclopedia, book, website and journal article. So we proceed to the printed material, which is dictionary, book, newspaper and encyclopedia. So first is dictionary. This webpage provides detailed definition about antibody terms with a relevant example of sentence that can explain the perfect meaning. So the meaning of antibody is protein produced in the blood that fight disease by attacking and killing harmful bacteria and virus. Antibody also called immunoglobulin. Okay, for the book, include a full description of antibody works, and for the newspaper, include several terms that used repeatedly by public official and healthcare experts. For the encyclopedia, describe the immune system in the human body is made up of antibody cells and the body's immunological reaction to virus and types of antibody in more detail. Next, for online material, we have two here, website and journal. For the website, explain about detailed definition about antibody terms, how the antibody works, types and location of antibody. For the journal, this site include information about how antibody look like, antibody form, the monoclonal antibodies and the antibody test work. Last but not least, for the conclusion, this study can conclude that there are various definitions and types for each term that are stated whether different in terms of science, psychology, medicine and literature. This research also have identified several points that can be a long-term effect of COVID-19, such as their mental health, the physical effect on the body of patient COVID-19, their multi-organ and the antibody. This research will help researchers plan future studies with vulnerable nations, focusing on the categorization of information service and information facilities in relation to COVID-19's long-term effects. So as a result, this study can help researchers in certain way by making it easier for them to obtain the information they need. So that's all from us. Thank you.